Hi YouTube, it's Autumn. Today I have a confession to make. So before I had authentic Louis Vuitton bags, I had fake bags. I had 5 of them total. And I had fake bags knowingly. Um, so I want to tell you today why I had those, why I sought them out, and why I will never buy them again. So a little backstory first. I grew up poor, quite poor, and my father was a cocaine addict, and anyway, we had all kinds of financial problems because of that and other problems because of that. And I'm planning to do a video on that shortly. I've got to sit down and write out all I can remember from it because I feel like that is a story that could help some people who are maybe going through similar things, especially young people, because I was living at home when all that was happening. But anyway, so having grown up in that environment and never having money, not going on vacations, the water, the electricity going out, like not going out, but being turned off because the bills weren't paid every other month. Things like that, money was a big issue, you know. So I remember once growing up, there was this Yaga t-shirt when I was in middle school. They were like tie-dyed and they changed colors in the sun. And I wanted one because everybody else had them. You know how it is in school. You want the same thing that everybody else has so you can fit in. And the shirt was like $15 or $20, but to us that was a fortune. Not a fortune, but like my parents did eventually buy me one, but it was a big deal to get a $15 or $20 shirt. So that's how poor we were, to give you an idea. So things like Louis Vuitton, that was never on my radar. That was never something in my realm of possibility in that kind of lifestyle. And I went off to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. And I ended up spending a long time in college because I got 2 degrees and went to grad school and took a year off in between all this stuff and went to several schools. But that's a story for another time. But anyway, right after high school, I moved up to New York to go to school. And in New York City, everybody has Louis Vuitton or some other, fancy handbag. But the Louis Vuitton ones were the most obvious to me because they had the monogram logo, so you could really tell what they were. And, you could go down to Chinatown and buy fakes. So the first time I lived in New York twice. I'm trying to make sure here. It was not the first time I lived there. It was the second time. So I saw these bags around, came back home, went to school here, finished up, and then I moved back to New York for grad school. And I guess that is when I really started noticing the Louis Vuitton bags. So this would have been around 2005 or 6 or so. And I went down to Chinatown, and you've heard these stories probably. So you walk down Canal Street where all the little shops are that are like open air shops. And there are people, there are shops that are full of handbags, and they're not the fake ones. There are some like inspired by Coach and Fendi and stuff like that, and some inspired by Louis Vuittons, but there aren't any that have the logos actually on them because it's illegal. But then you also walk down the street, and there are these people that have little laminated pieces of paper with Louis Vuitton bags or whatever they're selling, and they'll kind of not whisper, but say low as you're walking by them, say in a kind of low voice, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Rolex, whatever they're selling. And so the first bag I got was from Chinatown, and it was a Speedy 30 monogram. And I got it from one of those, let me think, hold on. No, okay, yeah, it was one of the guys on the sidewalk. I'm trying to remember all this. So I've been in the back of those stores, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting, and you go down there, and it's like you're doing something you're not supposed to do, and it's a little exciting when we walk in and the shop owner asks, because they do the same kind of thing, or you ask, I'm looking for Chanel, I'm looking for Louis Vuitton, or whatever, Coach even, and so some of those shops have these secret doors in the back where it looks like a wall with handbags, but it's actually a door that they open. And you'll go in and they'll have somebody else in there in this other little back room. And they close the door so you're like hidden back there. And the thing about these people selling the fake bags is they really pressure you because it's illegal, and they really want you to just buy something and get out. And I'm not encouraging anybody to do this, but if you find yourself in that situation, don't let them pressure you, but don't buy fake bags. I'll explain. So anyway, they pressure you, and I didn't end up buying from the people in the back of the shops, but one day I went down there specifically for a Louis Vuitton bag. And I walked down the street, and one of those guys said, under his breath, and he had the paper and stuff, and I pointed to the one I was looking at, which was the Speedy 30 monogram. And he said, follow me. So we walked down the street around the corner a little bit. Still plenty of people around, but it was a little bit more private than, Canal Street, where there are hundreds and hundreds of people. And I was a little worried because I've heard stories about them taking you into like downstairs basements and things, and I didn't want to go alone with some shady guy I don't know. But he told me to wait on the street under the scaffolding where it was a little bit more hidden. And he left, and he came back a little while later with a black garbage bag and pulled out this Speedy 30. And he, again, was pressuring me, and I don't remember what I paid for it. It was probably $30 or $20 or something very cheap like that, because these bags are cheap and they are not worth that much. So I knew that they were going to pressure me, so I was prepared for that. I was like, no, I'm going to inspect this bag, because to me that was a lot of money, $20 or $30. So I looked at it, and I'm so glad I looked at it, because this bag had feet on the bottom, a Speedy 30 with feet on the bottom. And if you know Louis Vuitton Speedies, they do not have feet on the bottom. But this one had 4 or 5 feet, and one of the feet was missing. So I'm glad I looked at it, because I pointed that out to him, and he was like annoyed with me, but he went back and got a different bag. I looked at that one, it was fine. So I bought that one from him. So that was my first fake Louis Vuitton bag experience. And I carried that around New York for a while, and brought it back to Houston. And when I got back to Houston, my boyfriend at the time, we were out at some big indoor flea market, and we found a shop that had some fake Louis Vuitton bags, and they had a Speedy 30 in Damier Azur. And so I got that, and that was probably around the same price range. And then my next bag I didn't buy for quite a while. I got that one, so the Azur would have been around 2008 or 9. The next bag I bought was in 2014, and I got that one in Italy. So this was with my current boyfriend. We went to Italy over my summer vacation, and that's a story for another time too, but it was a dream trip. It was something that we really splurged on, because we knew if we were going to go to Italy, it was the one place that both of us had dreamed of going. I'd always wanted to go there and thought I never would. I wanted to go, treat myself like a 2-week trip in Italy when I graduated college, but I couldn't afford to do that. So anyway, we were able to make it happen. We stayed for 5 weeks, which is crazy luxurious, but the only reason we were able to do that is because we found an Airbnb, this little house it was, I don't know, like a 20-minute train ride outside of Florence in Tuscany, in this really small town. And we rented a car, and the house was, for the entire 5 weeks, it was just over $1,000, which is crazy cheap. Figure that out per night. 5 weeks, however many nights that is, and divide, $1,000 by that, and super cheap. So that's how we were able to stay for that long. And we rented a car and drove all around. It was fantastic. And we went to lots of different places. So we flew into and out of Rome because that was the cheapest place to go. And we stayed in that place in Florence. And then we did day trips. And we did a couple of overnight trips to different places. And one of the places we went overnight was Venice. So I'd seen, what was it? When we flew into Rome, I think we spent that first night there and then a day and one night, and then we drove up to the Florence area. So when we were in Rome that first time, there was some bridge, I don't remember which one it was, that we crossed, and people were selling fake handbags. Just like they had a sheet on the ground and they had the handbags out and a lot of Louis Vuitton stuff. And so I had been wanting a Neverfull for a while. So I was looking at that, but then I was kind of afraid to talk to them because I knew that they pressure you. So I just left it alone. I didn't bother with it. And thinking, okay. So anyway, I didn't know that they even sold fakes over there because I'd never been overseas before. And so I was surprised by that, but I didn't, look into it at all. So then we went to Venice. And I never saw any fake handbags in Rome. I'm sure they have them. I mean, not in Rome, but in Florence. I'm sure they have them, but I never saw any. In Venice, we walked by this street that I don't remember the name of, where there's a Louis Vuitton and a Gucci and all this. And right down like a couple doors from the real Louis Vuitton Gucci places, there were people selling fake handbags on the street. And again, we walked by, I'm kind of looking, but if they see you looking, they call you out and are like, hey, come over here. And, they try to pressure you into buying a bag, and I don't like to be pressured. So I just kind of looked out of the corner of my eye, and we kept walking. We went to our hotel. And then I told my boyfriend, he's like, I think I want to go get one of those Neverfulls. So we walked back, and they were gone because, it's illegal, so they move around a lot. So I didn't get one then. And then when we were leaving Venice, we went to the train station to leave, and there was another bridge, one of the main bridges that crosses the Grand Canal, and they were selling bags there and on the street. And those guys were picking up and moving really frequently, so I was kind of following them, looking. And I ended up talking to one of the guys, but he wanted way too much money. I don't remember what it was, but I want to say it was close to 100 euros or so, way too much for a fake handbag. So I left that alone. And anyway, our last day in Italy, we were back in Rome because we were flying out of there, and we went to the Pantheon, which was the first place we'd gone when we first got there, but we went over there to have dinner, and anyway, we walked over there, and there were people selling these fake handbags on the steps of the Pantheon. And I went up and talked to this guy, and I think he did have a Neverfull, so I walked over to ask about that. But then I saw this on his sheet, and I had never seen this bag before. And I'm a sucker for pleats. I think it's so pretty and feminine. And then these little things, so pretty. But I saw this, and I ended up buying this from him. This is the Louis Vuitton Tivoli GM, but of course it's fake. So that's the only one I still have in my collection. The rest of them I've destroyed. I don't remember if I said that. But anyway, so I talked to him about that bag, and we negotiated a price, and I paid up for it because it's a bag, it's not a bag you typically see when you look at the fakes. This is like a fancier one. They tend to have Speedies and Neverfulls and the more plain bags, the more popular bags, I guess. I'm going to turn that a little bit more. Okay, so I saw that and I was like, oh, that's the one I have to get. So we negotiated a price, and I said, wait here. I've got to go get the cash from the boyfriend. And that freaked him out a little bit, but I went and I got the cash, and I came back and he was gone. I'm like, oh no. So, because I was really wanting that bag. It was the last day in Italy. I'd been chasing other people for these bags. So I walked around looking for him, and finally I find him and the other guys, and they're down this alley. They've moved because the cops had showed up. So there was this police car that came in, and so, it makes the whole thing a little more exciting, I guess. But anyway, I went and bought the bag from him, and I think I transferred my stuff into it right away, and it was packed with newspaper, so it's not the Louis Vuitton shopping experience by any means. But the reason I still have this bag, I destroyed all the other ones, but I still have this one, is because this is the best of the fakes that I've had. It's the best quality one, even though the quality is really pretty terrible when you compare it to Louis Vuitton. But mostly I have it because of the story. I never ever carry this bag anymore. It just sits in my closet. I would feel ridiculous carrying a fake around now. But it's a pretty bag, and it sits in my closet and looks nice. But what was I saying? Yeah. Okay, so stuff with newspaper, all that. Okay, so we get back to Houston here, and now I'm really wanting a Neverfull because I've wanted it for a while, and I missed out on my chance to get it in Italy. And so I found this website, which y'all might know about, called iOffer. And you go to this website, and it's basically a website full of fakes that you order from China. And it's pretty shady because a lot of these people, some of them take your cards and stuff, but a lot of it is like, we take Western Union only. They don't do PayPal, they don't do anything like that, because it is illegal for them to be selling these fake items. And a lot of the sellers will close down their shop and reopen with a different name and all this. So it's pretty shady, and at least I never, when I bought 2 bags from them, I never felt confident that when I gave them my card information that I wasn't going to get scammed and end up with somebody taking money out of my account or something. And then another problem is you never know what the actual quality of the bag is because you don't see it in person. And because it's in China, it takes a month or more for you to even get the item. And then if you wanted to return it, I don't think they even do returns. So they have really cheap bags that you can get for $20, $40, but then they have expensive ones that are a few hundred. Don't pay that much for any of them. Don't buy fakes, okay? Seriously, they're so terrible, and I'm going to tell you about my experiences with these bags and why you should never buy them. So I bought a Neverfull damier Ben with the red interior, and I carried that for like a year. As my everyday bag. I love that bag, and that was why I ended up getting a real one. But, and then what was the other? Oh, after I'd had that for quite a while, I bought the Neverfull in mono. And I wish I had that one to show you because it was so, so bad. So let me go back through my list of bags and tell you about the quality issues. So the Speedies that I got a mono and a damier azur. So, and I got my real Speedy out to show you. So one of the problems on those, first of all, the piping was so fake, especially they were both vachetta. They were really like plastic or something, I don't know. They were terrible. But what I found is this little piece here, which on Louis Vuitton is sewn together. On those bags, they had stitching on them, but they weren't actually sewn together. So this piece would come apart because it was really just glued on. And the stitching would come loose, and they were just really terrible. And they were very stiff as compared to these, which are, the real ones are, they're very pliable after you use them for a while because the canvas gets softer. what else? The locks. I do still have the locks, and they're very cheap compared to the real locks. They're lightweight and cheap, and like if this is the lock and this is the loop on top, they kind of are crooked. And so the Speedies were terrible quality. I ended up cutting those up, excuse me, and throwing them away. On the Neverfulls, let me show you my real one. So when I bought the fake Neverfull, the glazing on the handles almost immediately started peeling. And the inside of it was like white fabric of some sort, like a man-made fabric. And it would just have these white strings hanging off of it all over the place. Also, the size was not right. It was not as big as an MM, even though it was supposed to be an MM. When I first looked at a real Louis Vuitton, first time I ever went into a real Louis Vuitton was in New York. But then the first time I ever went and actually had the guts to ask to look to see something was just a couple years ago in New Orleans at the Louis Vuitton at the Saks there. And I went in and asked to see the Neverfull. First time I'd ever seen it up close in person and touched it. And I was so, so impressed. And I don't know how much you can tell here, but I was so impressed how thick the leather was right here. Because all I'd ever experienced were the fake bags, and they're so thin and plasticky and just really awful. The other thing about that Neverfull, the fake one, was that when I got it, after I'd paid $30 or $40, whatever I paid for it, and waited over a month to get it shipped to me, it came in like one of those plasticky kind of envelopes, and it was folded. So it had crease marks through it, which don't come out as easily on the fake bags because they're basically plastic, as they do on the canvas. But I opened the thing up, and the colors were wrong. It was like a little too yellow. And this was the Damier Ben. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, God, the smell. So it reeked of strong chemicals. It was so, so awful. It took about a month for me to get that smell out. And I tried different things. I had to put it in a separate room. Like, I couldn't even be in the same room with it. It smelled so bad. And I got these like powder scent absorber things from the grocery store and put several of those in it. I put towels in it to kind of soak up the odor. Finally, after a month or more, the scent was gone enough where I felt comfortable carrying it. But that was really awful. And then the monogram one that I got, same problem, except I don't think I ever got the smell out of that one. That one I actually put outside on our porch and let it air outside, and I don't think it ever came out. But that one, the vachetta, the plastic lining on it or edging, was so bad. This bag was so ugly, and I wish I had pictures or something to show you. But I ended up, like I said, cutting all these bags up, and those two Neverfulls especially, well, the other ones too. The reason they smelled so bad is that the pieces inside, like the outer plasticky whatever, and then the fabric inside, which was not canvas, but some kind of cheap man-made fabric, they were glued together with some really, like, toxic, chemically glue. It was awful and disgusting. So that's that. Is there anything else I want to say about that? Oh, I want to show you quality issues on this one, because this is the best fake I've had, but there's so much wrong with it. So this is the only one the guy had, or I would have maybe looked for a better one, but you see here how crooked that stamping is? That would never happen on a Louis Vuitton bag. You see, let's see, there's so many things wrong with this. Now, one of the good things about this bag is that this is actually vachetta, and you can tell when I bought it, it was much lighter. You can see here, kind of, I don't know how much you can tell with the light, but you can see, I hope, that it's lighter up under here. Yeah, there you can see it some. How light it is there, and it's darkened over time, and it's just been sitting in my closet. So this dirt, I don't know what that's from because it's just been sitting in my closet. It hasn't gotten dirty for me. The vachetta is very thin. That would not happen on a real Louis Vuitton bag. On the bottom of these, whoops, just threw my glasses on the floor. On the bottom of these handles, you see how wrinkly that is. That would not happen on a real Louis Vuitton bag. The stitching here, you see how messy it is, and then you see how it's really close to the edge sometimes and really far. That would not happen on a Louis Vuitton bag. The edging would be, or the stitching would be very good. You see here how messy the glazing is and how there's this raw edge showing. That would not happen on a real Louis Vuitton bag. The hardware is nice on this one. They do have the stamping and it hasn't changed color. So they've got the LV, oh, that's pretty scratched up. I think that was like that when I bought it too. And then on here you can see it says Louis Vuitton. So I think all the Speedies that I had Louis Vuitton stamped on the hardware, and maybe the Neverfulls too. So what other problems? This kind of wrinkling on the vachetta, that would not happen with a real Louis Vuitton bag. They did do a pretty good job lining up the monogram, the pattern on the bag. Not perfect by any means, but that does happen on Louis Vuittons. They don't line up their canvas as well as they used to. This has feet on the bottom. It has the piping. So it's a pretty bag. That's why I've kept it, and then the memory of buying it on the steps of the Pantheon. So that's pretty cool. But again, I never carry this thing. The stitching there, it's just, once you've had a real Louis Vuitton, these things do not compare. And then inside, I have it stuffed, but you see how crooked the stamping is there? That would not happen on a real Louis Vuitton bag. This is terrible. This lining is thin and cheap. That would not happen on a Louis Vuitton bag. Although my Turenne interior is similar to this, but it's not nearly this cheap. So that's about it. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to move the camera back because I hit the computer here. Oh, I was going to show you these two. So these are not fake Birkins, but Birkin-inspired bags. I got these from Amazon. They're by a company called Anafeel. It's A-I. It's like Anafeel, but A-I, Anafeel. So I really like these, and I never carry them either. But I really like them. They're between about 100 and 150. I bought the black one first, and then I got this one and the pink one at the same time. Isn't that fun? I love that. The reason I bought these three is because last year I got into planners, and I've got like 5 planners here. I was looking for one to show you. So I've got like 5 planners, and I needed something to carry them in. So I've never used these as handbags, but I have used them as like briefcases in addition to my handbag. And I haven't carried any of them in a long time. I'm unlocking it and opening it up for you so you can look inside. I really like these bags. I think they're so pretty, but I feel really weird carrying them because even though they don't say Hermes anywhere on them, I feel like I'm carrying a fake bag because I basically am, because they look exactly like Birkins. And I've never seen a real Birkin in person. So it has this zipped pocket, and it has this one big pocket here. And the inside and outside is all leather. Now it's like a cheap leather, I'm sure, but it smells nice. It smells like leather, not chemicals. See how it's kind of wrinkly there? Again, I don't have an Hermes to compare that to, but I'm guessing that wouldn't happen in a real Hermes bag. But anyway, they have feet on the bottom. I have only used these to carry my planners in addition to my handbags. And so I wanted to throw these into this video because they're also fakes or inspired or whatever you want to call them. But again, they do not say Hermes up here like the real ones do. Alright, so I think that's all. And I think I told you everything I wanted to tell you about the bags. So getting them from like Chinatown or something if you're in New York, actually buying them in person, personally I think that's kind of fun. I think it's a little exhilarating and it's kind of a fun thing to do. But they are not worth pennies. They're really pieces of crap. They're terrible bags. They fall apart immediately on you. Anybody who knows anything about the brand is going to be able to tell right away that they're fake and that you're carrying a fake. So, and plus, from what I've heard, that industry, if you're buying fakes, you're supporting child labor and you're supporting crime because the money goes to different criminal organizations that create these illegal bags. So my recommendation would be what I've done, or what I started doing about a year ago, is to get real bags. And most of my bags come from the Preloved market. So go that route, save up your money if you have to, finance it if you have to. Get the real bag. If you're looking to get a fake, don't do it. There's so many negatives. It's not worth it. And just invest in the real thing. And start small if you want to get a feel for the brand. You're going to see the quality difference immediately. I was so impressed the first time I went and looked at these bags in person. I just never seen anything like it, and I haven't been able to go back to other brands since I started carrying Louis Vuitton. I've been selling off all of my other bags, the Michael Kors and the Spade, and even my Furla bags from Italy, and I just can't carry anything besides Louis now because it just is so well made, and it makes me feel so good carrying them now that I have the real ones. And when I carried the fake ones, because there are a lot of real Louis Vuittons in Houston, it's a big brand here, and I live and work in neighborhoods where I see a lot of people carrying them, and I'd be places and I'd see people looking at my fake bags, and now I know that was because they knew they were fake, and so I was always self-conscious about carrying them. So I didn't feel good carrying them. I feel great carrying the real ones now. So anyway, I hope this was interesting. I hope it was informative. I know it's like one of my longest videos, so I apologize for that, but I guess I had a lot to say about it. And please, any questions or comments that you have, leave those below. And if you like the video, click like. And if you would like to see more videos from me, click the subscribe button. Thanks so much. Don't buy fakes. I'll see you next time.